Hey everybody, welcome back. Okay, so you'll see our code here from the last video. Let's just get rid of that. And let's start explaining the different types of variables. So one of the first types of variables we're going to discuss is called an integer. What is an integer? So an integer is a number, and it's going to be a number that you're going to want to have do something, whether it's going to be add, subtract, multiply, divide, whatever, and you're not going to have it with text. So if I wanted to do an integer, I would do var, and I can put, let's just use answer again, and I can put equals 10. And then I'll put my semicolon. Now another thing I wanted to discuss is when you have this whole variable typed out like this, you have the variable assigned, and you have what it equals, and then you have the semicolon. This whole thing here, this whole line of code is called a statement. So if you hear me refer to a statement, you know I'm referring to a line of code. Okay, so this is the integer, and unlike when we did the string in the last video, it does not have the quotes around it. So what I can do is I can either log it to the console again, or another thing I'll teach you real quick is you can also make it show up on your web page, and all you have to do is do document.write and then put answer. Now, let's explain something here a minute. One thing in JavaScript is it always refers to your site as a document. So you're always going to be finding that you're putting document at the beginning of a lot of different things. And basically all that means is you're referring to the website that you're working on. So if we save this, we bring up our page and we hit refresh, you'll notice we logged it to the console, but now it also showed up on the page. So that's what that document.write did, was put it here on the page. Okay, so now if we go back to our code, that is an integer. Okay, so now let's do a string, which we already discussed a little bit. But another thing we're going to do is we'll just put answer 2 here equals. Another thing is that if I wanted to make this 10 a string, I can. And I can make it a string, and that just means it's not going to be added. It's not going to be, any kind of math done to it. Or if I wanted to put 10, let's say apples, that's a string, right? So if I change this to answer 2 here, I refresh it, now it says 10 apples. So because I'm not doing any math with it and it's in the quotes, the biggest thing is if it's in quotes, it's always a string. So if you do want to do math on a number, like you might want to here with the 10, do not put it in quotes or it's going to mess everything up. Okay, so now there's something else similar to an integer, which is a number, but it's actually a decimal number, and you'll hear this referred to as a float. So if I wanted to put 5.72 and we refresh our page, and there it is, it's 5.72, and again, that's considered a float. So it's like an integer because it's a number, but as soon as you add that decimal point, it's now a float. Because what they call a decimal number is a floating point number, so they call that kind of variable a float. Now, there's one other kind of variable, and we're not really going to use this a whole lot right now, but as you start to program more, you're going to start using it. And it's called a Boolean. So Boolean is spelled B-O-O-L-E-A-N. Okay, or you might just hear it referred to as a bool. Okay, but basically what that is just true or false. That's it. And if we refresh this, you'll see it says true, and we don't even have that in quotes. The reason for that is because when it's a Boolean variable, true and false does not have to be in quotes. It's either going to be true or it's going to be false, and that's it. That's all a Boolean is, and because you're assigning as a Boolean, it's already going to know it's either true or false. Don't put quotes around it, or now it has become a string. And there's false. Okay, so let's just recap a little bit. We have our integers, we have our floating point numbers or floats, we have our strings, which is lines of text inside the singular double quotes, and we have our booleans, or bool as you might hear them referred to sometimes, but they're booleans, and that's either true or false. And the booleans are, you do not put any of the single or double quotes around them, otherwise you're turning it into a string. So if this was a boolean here, and now all of a sudden I go like this, now it's a string, so yeah, it'll still show up and it'll say false, but it's going to have a different meaning behind it, because what you might be trying to get across is something that says if this is the case, then it equals true, but if this is the case, then it equals false, and that's the Boolean variable. But if you're putting it as a string, it's not going to understand what you're saying. It's just going to be like, oh, okay, it's a string. You can put anything there. So make sure when you're using a Boolean, you don't put any kind of quotes around the true and false. Okay? Thank you for watching. I hope that this will allow you to better understand the different types of variables, and I'll see you in the next video.